Hello YouTube, Brian here, and welcome to my channel where I talk about eye-catching art, eye-catching things, and people-centered politics. Last time, I shared a painting process video of Cecilia Diocson's portrait, whom is a great progressive leader in the Filipino-Canadian community. In this video, we continue to celebrate Working Women's History Month with another painting process video, this time of my close friends and mentors, RINA SIOSON and YOLYN Valenzuela, and to share some of their contributions to the women's movement in Canada. Who are RINA SIOSON and YOLYN Valenzuela? Well, they're both community organizers and are part of the National Alliance of Philippine Women in Canada, which is a grouping of progressive Filipino-Canadian activists geared towards genuine equality, development, human rights, and combating violence against women. Their focus on educational and capacity-building programs tackle systemic issues of economic, social, and political marginalization deriving from immigration and labor policies that keep many Filipino women in a constant state of temporariness and volatility, being overworked and underpaid as live-in caregivers, undocumented migrants, and as workers in many service sector jobs. Joy had a joint major in Women and Gender Studies and Political Science from Simon Fraser University in Burnaby, but her activism began in Vancouver in 1999 as a member of the Philippine Women's Centre of British Columbia, the sister organizations of the Filipino-Canadian Youth Alliance of BC and SICLUB BC, all housed under the historic Kalayaan Centre, which sadly no longer exists. There, she became one of the organizational leaders helping to plan and deliver the various programs of the three organizations of the Kalayaan Center. Joy also became known in the local communities through her participation in outreaching initiatives and community-based research projects regarding Filipino youth's experiences of racism in schools, part-time jobs, and with law enforcement. Deeper research also revealed the stories of Filipino women working as nannies under the federal government's live-in caregiver program regarding abusive employers, limited access to healthcare services, the non-accreditation and non-recognition of their foreign educational credentials and professional experience, as many of them were certified nurses in the Philippines. There were also recurring familial struggles of reuniting with their children and spouses after long periods of separation while fulfilling the requirements of the live-in caregiver program, which in most cases took years to complete. This trailblazing work would later highlight and ground calls for the genuine and successful settlement and integration of Filipino nannies and their families, not just in British Columbia, but also in other major provinces where there are large populations of Filipinos as full participants in Canadian polity, economics, and culture, and not just as sources of cheapened and highly exploitable pool of workers. But beyond than just the Filipino-Canadian community, the organizing work that Joy took part in during this time further exposed issues that many other working-class women in Canada have also been struggling with in regards to the absence or lack of a truly universal childcare system, job security, livable wages, affordable housing, and a comprehensive healthcare system for all. Joy moved to the province of Ontario in the year 2000 and under the guidance of the Philippine Women's Centre of British Columbia, helped to establish the Ontario chapter in the same year. It was also during this time that Joy would meet YOLYN, whom, after learning about the work of the Philippine Women's Centre, would help to establish the Ontario chapter of the Filipino-Canadian Workers' Rights Group, SICLUB, in 2005. Working closely together, Joy and YOLYN outreached to Filipino domestic workers, caregivers, and other like-minded women in and around the city of Toronto. Learning about their stories through numerous focus groups, Joy and YOLYN involved them in community-based research projects to identify common issues regarding immigration, work and living conditions, housing, etc. This would later inform educational workshops on anti-racism, labor and employment law, immigration law and processes, and even tax preparation and resume writing workshops. Through these activities, the membership would grow and create working collectives and support systems in the spirit of women's empowerment and community building. PWC Ontario and SICLUB Ontario, along with their counterparts in British Columbia and Quebec, were paying close attention to the federal government's Temporary Foreign Worker Program. Initially launched in 1973, it allowed employers to hire foreign workers on a temporary basis in job sectors deemed to have Canadian labor shortages, but in practice became the dominant and preferred hiring process by many employers in industries such as farming and agriculture, manufacturing, healthcare, childcare, and other service sectors. The Live-In Caregiver program actually falls under this larger labor program. Workers under the TFWP would not enjoy the same legal protections as regular Canadian workers would under labor and employment laws, and their temporary status made them grossly susceptible to the abuses of unscrupulous employers who made the constant threat of deportation. This disproportionately created a system of flexibility for employers but insecurity for workers. By the mid-2000s, the TFWP had become the mainstream of entry for Filipinos into Canada, with the Philippines as one of the largest source of temporary foreign workers. With the growing numbers of Filipino migrant workers not only working as nannies in private homes, but also as so-called low-skilled workers in fast food, farm work, hotels, and factories, YOLYN, as a factory worker herself at the time, directly saw the need to expand organizing activities to address issues and challenges faced by the deeply vulnerable and intensely exploitable workers under the TFWP. The community-based research findings also showed a pattern of Filipino women being funneled into these same low-wage jobs even after finishing the Live-In Caregiver program, and the long-standing social and economic impacts would trickle down to their children. With this realization, Joy and YOLYN and other core members of the PWC also prioritize organizing Filipino youth, starting in university campuses through class talks and presentations of the work and research. It was through these efforts that the Filipino-Canadian Youth Alliance of Ontario would come into fruition in 2001, led by a new generation of community organizers, and much like the Kalayaan Center in British Columbia, the Magkaisa Center would emerge as a home of the three progressive community organizations that focus on the struggles of Filipino women, youth, and workers in Ontario. I've included some resource links below about the organizations under the Magkaisa Center, as well as supplementary readings expanding on the Temporary Foreign Worker Program. And if you enjoyed watching the painting process and found a tidbit of critical Filipino-Canadian history through Joy and YOLYN's stories interesting and revealing, and you'd like to see more content like it, please leave a comment down below, subscribe to the channel, and hit that notification bell. And hey, giving it a thumbs up and a share won't hurt either. Many thanks for dropping by, everyone, and I hope to see you in the next one.